Hi, my name is Dr. Felucia. I'm a licensed psychologist, and today I'm going to be talking to you about some common myths and misconceptions about OCD, otherwise known as obsessive compulsive disorder. One of the most common misconceptions about OCD is that anxiety and anxiety only is a central part of the OCD experience. Now, while it's true that people who have OCD commonly feel and experience anxiety, anxiety is not one of the only symptoms that people have when they have OCD. Some of the feelings or symptoms or emotions that accompany OCD are disgust, shame, or a sensation that things are just not right. And so it's important that we don't think of OCD as strictly an experience of anxiety. There are several types of emotions that accompany OCD symptoms. And oftentimes when people have OCD, if it goes untreated for long periods of time, depression can also occur as a result. And so that is one common misconception about OCD, is that it's anxiety only. Several other symptoms can occur as well. The second misconception about OCD is that, and it tends to be a stereotype too, is that people who have OCD are overly concerned about germs, cleanliness, and order. And while that's true, again, that could be a symptom cluster for some people who have OCD, so there are several other types of symptom subtypes of OCD, shall I say. So there are people who have OCD symptoms around their relationship status, around religious sorts of concerns or themes, morals, harm. There are different sorts of symptom clusters that can accompany OCD. When I talk about OCD subtypes, they tend to run in themes. And so people can have some of the more commonly known themes around contamination, cleanliness, and things like that. But there are also several other concerns that people have around OCD that don't fit into either of those two categories. And so there are some people who, who have just obsessive thoughts and then compulsions in response to those thoughts that are related to distinct types of themes and symptom clusters that are along the themes that I just talked about, religion, responsibility for harm, taboo thoughts is another one. And so it's really important to remember that when people have OCD, the thoughts are recurrent, and also that the types of thoughts that they're having are intrusive and unwanted thoughts. And that's another theme to another misconception about OCD. Some people think that when people have OCD, it's just, obsessive thoughts, right? But it's not only thoughts. There can be urges, and there can be distressing images as well. And so some people will talk about not being able to get a certain number out of their head or a certain image out of their head. And in response to whatever that intrusive thing is, they're doing a compulsion. So that is the third conception, that, people think that OCD are just, OCD symptoms are just related to thoughts. No, it's not just thoughts. There can be images as well as urges or even uncomfortable sensations. Another conception about OCD, or misconception about OCD, is that it's a personality quirk, or they'll use OCD as an adjective, like, oh, I'm so, OCD about my cooking. And the harmful thing about this is that it makes OCD seem like it is less serious and less debilitating than it is. OCD can be a very debilitating disorder. One of the symptoms for OCD is that obsessions and compulsions take up at least an hour each day. But in many of the individuals that I've worked with, it takes up much more time than that. And so OCD is not just, a personality quirk or just being particular about something. It's much more serious than that. And so it's important that we're not taking our cues about what we think OCD is, from the media, or seeing, certain characters or things like that, displaying what people think OCD is like. Okay. Another misconception about OCD is that people who have OCD should just stop doing the compulsions or the rituals that come along with OCD. And if they would just stop doing it, then they get better. And the point is that, that's not only true, it's a very limited and even insensitive way of looking at the disorder. Many people who have OCD have tried many times to just stop doing compulsions and quit doing them cold turkey, and it doesn't work. It may work for, it may work for a very brief and limited period of time, but it doesn't work. And so it's really important to remember that OCD is a serious disorder. It has neurological correlates to it. And that's another reason why it's not possible for people to just stop doing compulsions and then just treat themselves that way. That rarely ever works. And the reason it doesn't is because that when people are doing these obsessions and compulsions, there is brain circuitry that's being hardwired that needs to be unlearned and undone. And so it doesn't mean that it's impossible. It definitely is possible when many people get treated successfully, their OCD symptoms treated successfully by using a therapy known as ERP, or exposure response prevention therapy. And if you look in the playlist, I have some videos about that as well. So I'm just going to run over the myths about OCD again. The first one is that the symptoms are strictly anxiety related. That's a myth. Other types of feelings and symptoms and sensations come in as well. So shame, disgust, a feeling of not just right, that's one of them. Another myth about OCD is that the symptoms tend to be around themes like cleanliness and symmetry. And again, much more than just that. When we think about OCD and when we think about the type of disorder that it is, there are several other types of symptoms and symptom themes and clusters that go along with this disorder. Okay, so some of them are themes around relationship status, religion, responsibility to prevent harm, all these other sorts of things. And so it's not just contamination and cleanliness. Another myth that I talked about again is the belief that OCD is only related to obsessive thoughts, right? But it's not just obsessive thoughts, they're also recurrent images that are hard to get rid of, as well as sensations. So that is why, so that helps when we understand these myths, it helps us broaden our perspective and understanding of what OCD is like. And then the other myth that I talked about is just it being a personality quirk, and that's not what it is. It's not an adjective. It's not a way of being. It is actually a debilitating disorder that causes suffering and causes a lot of impairment and function in other areas of one's life. And then the last one is that people who have OCD, or the myth anyways, people who have OCD should just stop doing the compulsions and it'll go away. And again, that is not possible without treatment. And it is not an effective way of dealing with OCD symptoms. So I hope that information helps. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the section below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And if you'd like to book a free consultation with me, go ahead and click on my website, skillsetcounseling.com, and we can talk about how we can get you the help and the treatment for what you're looking for. I hope you have a wonderful and peaceful day. Bye-bye.